granted, this was your week 8 reality check, and we're going into week 9, but I want to focus on this because I really liked one of your points. You started out saying it's been a long time since we've seen this much parity in the league. Bump and I were just talking in our last hour about trying to figure out, well, who is the team to beat in the NFC and who is the team to beat in the AFC? And I liked that it was a debate. What do you think is leading to a bit more parity this year?
Well, I think injuries are part of this. I mean, you're seeing a lot of star players go down. I think you're seeing a lot of teams who found the right coaches. I think there's really a lot of good young coaches in the NFL right now, and that's something that may not have been the case even like a few years ago. And, when you have these dominant teams like the Chiefs, you've seen the NFC where the Eagles have been on top and the Niners have had their run, and, obviously the Patriots going back a little farther. I think that teams have learned how to build to match up with these franchises. And so you've got better coaches, you've got better rosters, and I think you're seeing a more balanced league as a result.
What do you like most about this Seahawks team? I mean, people have been focusing on Sam, on JSN. It's the defense. What do you think is the strength, and what do you like?
Well, the balance. I mean, it's pretty hard to find too many teams in this league right now that are top 10 in scoring and top 10 in defense. And look, I've been super impressed with what Sam Darnold's been, and I wasn't so sure that when he left Minnesota that it wasn't going to be a decline given what he was leaving behind with the weapons he had, the coaches, the infrastructure. But, hats off to what Mike McDonald's done and Clint Kubiak. The emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba has been amazing to watch. And so that offense in and of itself, the offensive line obviously has done a good job. That offense has been phenomenal. And when you pair that with a defense, which I knew Mike McDonald was going to get that part right because I've seen him at Michigan, my alma mater, and with the Ravens, what he's been able to do. And so I just think there is balance in any team in the league. And when you're able to have all those different elements and good coaching, that bodes well for you long term.
Is there a part of you that feels like you're, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but kind of waiting for either regression or a bad game from Darnold? Or do you look at what Darnold's done and say, well, now you've got back-to-back really good years. It seems like he's taken a pretty good step forward.
I'm more in the second category that he's proven that this is not a 1 year, I'm with the right situation type of situation. And Baker Mayfield's done that in Tampa Bay, by the way, as well. They had a phenomenal, matchup a few weeks ago, and it was great to watch both those guys. I always have a lot of compassion for quarterbacks who go through what they've gone through, doing what they're doing. And so it just shows you how much being with the right coach and people who understand your strengths and how to use you means to a quarterback's success. And look, I live in Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes is a god here. And people don't want to hear it, but I tell people, if you put Patrick Mahomes in the situation that Sam Darnold was in the Jets, we'd never be talking about Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Because it's that easy to go the other way. And so I'm really happy for him and what he's doing. He's showing he's a player. Yeah, he's in my MVP watch every week because of that.
I know it's tough to predict the trade deadline, so I'm not saying like how many moves, but do you think we might see maybe a more quiet one than we're used to?
Oh, yeah. I definitely feel like it's because of that parity, right? I think that typically what happens if teams are out of it, they're more likely to sell off parts and say, all right, screw it, we're done. And some of those teams that are out of it don't have great parts to sell off. Now, I know New Orleans, Chris Olave is a hot name for teams that need receivers. There's a lot of talk about Kamara going somewhere. The Jets have been in play with Breece Hall. Some people have thrown out Quentin Williams. I can't imagine that with that contract he's going to be that attractive of a candidate. And so, yeah, the more you have GMs who feel like, oh, my team's pretty close, I'm going to hold on to my pieces. I'm not going to give them away. And so I think you'll see some movement, but you're not going to see like these heavy, huge moves like Von Miller going to the Rams, 4 years ago and changing the whole complexion of that team's defense.
We had some sound from Matt Hasselbeck yesterday, and he talked about how the NFL is slowly shifting back to old school football, under center, packing it in, the type of play that we're seeing here in Seattle. Why do you think that shift is being made, and do you feel like more teams are going to jump on board?
Well, you're seeing teams being successful with it. I think the Buffalo Bills are a great example of that, and how that's helped Josh Allen evolve into an MVP, where they just really got into the 6 offensive linemen, run heavy, 3 backs in the mix, James Cook leading the way. And so there's a lot of value in that. I think I think part of this is the way college football has evolved. A lot of these guys who come in the league now, especially offensive tackles, they're not seeing high-level pass rushers in college, and so it's a little bit harder to throw the football when your tackles aren't as reliable. And ultimately, you're just seeing just the size of the defenders now. I've argued for a long time that push for the Eagles is really successful, not just because it's a good play, but because how many teams have 300-pound linemen to line up, or 250-pound linebackers, like they did back in the day. There's just lighter bodies make it easier for you to run the football. So I do think it's going that way.
All right. Well, we did bring you on to initially ask you about the Seahawks, but it's hard not to take a look at the rest of the league with so many interesting stories. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. And I want to look at the Dallas Cowboys, not on Seattle's schedule, but obviously impactful for the postseason if they're able to fix this defense. The offense has been phenomenal. They're a really interesting team. Jerry Jones recently said he doesn't think they're just one player away. First, Jeffrey, do you think that they try to fix that defense and at least acquire someone at the deadline? And secondly, how much of a threat are they in the NFC?
Well, if they got their defense right, I think they'd be a serious threat, because that offense is tremendous in terms of the personnel they have. They had a tough week with Denver, but Denver's got a great defense. Yeah. But, look, I think they'll try. But I agree with what Jerry Jones is saying. You're not going to just get a quick fix, one guy come in and change the complexion of your defense, especially when you let Micah Parsons go and you went from 31 to 31 in defense. You're still a bad defense. So I don't know if that's a great deal for them. But yeah, I think that if they're able to win shootouts, they got a chance. But it's just so hard to bet on that. And it's really – I think what's real about them is they haven't beaten a winning team yet. And so when you play that style of football, you're going to beat the bad teams. But when you play the teams that can match up with you and score points against you and hold you down a couple possessions, you're going to lose games. So I think they're going to end up being probably 500 or maybe 7-8 win team.
Hey, how do you feel about the situation with the Jets? I always talk to Stacy, and I tell her, they're the worst, most talented team I've seen in a long time. Individually, there are some dudes out there, but they can't seem to get it together.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. It's a couple of years ago we were talking about Aaron Rodgers going over there, and all they have to have is just a decent offense, and that team is going to take off. And it feels like, I don't know, you guys, I feel like when I watch them, you can tell that they've pretty much they don't know who they are anymore. Yeah. That swagger they had as a young team is gone, and they've got some guys who've gotten paid. And that chemistry, that energy, that urgency they had a couple of years ago is gone. And so they've got to find a way to recapture that. I'm a big Aaron Glenn fan. I thought they bet on the wrong quarterback when they brought Justin Fields in, and that's been proven to be right. And so they got to find a way to fix that position. I think if they get the quarterback figured out, you'll see a different vibe there, but it's pretty hard to do that given what they've been up against.
Staying in the AFC here, going to take a look at the Baltimore Ravens, who are 2-5, was everyone's Super Bowl favorite heading into the season. They are going to presumably get Lamar Jackson for Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins, and then, knock on wood for Baltimore fans, hang on to them. Are they still a playoff team? I feel so stupid asking that, but are they still a playoff team? And what's your confidence level in the team if they get Lamar back?
Trust me, I feel stupid every time I talk about them, because I write them off every week, and then something happens, and like a 2-5 team is favored to win their division. But I feel like their opportunity to still be a playoff contender is more about that division than who they are. They're going to get people back, obviously, and getting their quarterback healthy is a big part of that. But watching Pittsburgh, it's very they don't inspire a lot of faith, and that's really the only team that in the division that I think could worry the Ravens as far as winning the division. The Bengals' defense isn't good enough. Pittsburgh, with the way they're playing defense, I don't see it. The Browns aren't in play. And you look at Baltimore's schedule, they've got, I believe it's 5 straight games against teams that are under 500, starting with the Dolphins. And so they could go from 2-5 to 7-5 in a hurry and be just fine. So I'm more likely to bet on them than anybody else right now, even with their record.
Who do you think the best team in the NFC is? Me and Stacy were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I think the team you got there is right there. I'd go with Green Bay just because of the record, what they can be when they are right, and because their defense, when it's clicking with Micah there now, and they were very opportunistic last year. You can see the possibilities there. And if Jordan Love is playing turnover free, they got a lot of weapons. I mean, it's like Tucker Kraft is turning into a star, and I've always been a big Josh Jacobs fan. And so you look at what they have there. I believe that's probably the best team right now, and I think they play pretty soon, don't they? Or they haven't played yet. They play the Packers this year?
No, I don't think they do.
The Seahawks?
Seahawks, no.
No. I think it's interesting, Jeffrey, that the three of us had three different answers. So I'll tell you. So, Bump, you said the Eagles still, and I said that the Eagles feel like they've been a weirder team. Like, the roster's still there, but, like, Saquon just had his first 100-yard game.
Don't poop on my point. What team you say?
Jeffrey, I said the Lions.
Yeah. Those are all, I think they're all the same. I think they're all legit. I agree with that. But nobody took the Seahawks. No one thought the Seahawks with what they're doing.
I think, you know what? I don't know why we didn't. Why didn't you pick the Seahawks? Pass defense. It
has to get better.
But they're weird because, Jeffrey, they're like good in scoring. They'll keep opponents out of the red zone, out of the end zone, but they're allowing some chunk plays, especially yards after catch. I don't know why I didn't do that. Shame on me.
Yeah.
Where would you have the Seahawks if you were like 1, 2, 3 in the NFC right now? And I know that this is subject to change in week 9, 10, and 11.
I'd probably put them 3 right now. I like them over the Lions because the Lions are so beat up in their secondary. But I think if all these teams are healthy, I like the Lions the best. But they all got their issues. And I'm not so certain with Philadelphia, it does concern me that it's taking this long to try to get some kind of consistent offense going. Mm-hmm. And they went through this a couple of years ago when they changed offensive coordinators. And, that's always a crapshoot because you like these guys on your staff and you believe in them, but sometimes they're not the right guy. And they went through this a couple of years ago. And so it is weird. They're the most talented team of that bunch. Put it that way. I think Philadelphia's the most talented. Yeah. I think the Lions are the most trustworthy. I think Green Bay's probably the best.
He is NFL Network's Jeffri Chadiha. Make sure you're reading his work, NFL.com, a ton of great stuff in there. I've loved your recent topics. The patience scale was such a fun read. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.